covering inheritance and the types of inheritance we can use in Python that include multiple inheritance, multi-level inheritance, hybrid inheritance, and hierarchical inheritance. For this tutorial, we limit ourselves to only inheritance. So what is inheritance? The word inheritance means heritage or legacy. To explain inheritance, let me give you an example. You know that the property of your father is transferred to you, so that property is inherited actually to you from your father. In computer programming, inheritance enables us to define a class that take all the functionality from the parent class and allow us to make certain modifications to it or leave it as so. It refers to define a new class called the derived or child class that inherit all the functions and variables from the base or parent class. So let me give you an example to show you that how this works. So I'll just move on to PyCharm, and here I will define a class that is going to be named parent. So this is the parent class. In this parent class, the first thing we need to do is that we need to define a constructor function that is going to be def init. It's going to take itself, and this is going to print out calling parent constructor. Good enough. So the next thing we need to do is that we need to define a method over here that is going to be named as parent method, and this parent method is going to simply print out calling parent method. So whenever this method is called, this is going to print out calling print method. So the next thing is that we need to define a child class now. Now, how is a child class defined? For this, you need to specify the name of the class, and in the brackets you want to write the name of the class from which you want to derive that class. So I want to derive it from parent. So in here we are also going to have a constructor, and in that constructor we are going to print out calling child constructor. Alright, and the next thing we need to do is that we need to define a function for this class as well, that's going to be named as child method, and this child method is going to have a print statement that's going to print out calling child method. Good enough. So seem to have error. Good enough. Now what we need to do is that first let me explain you here something. We need no errors. Alright, so no errors now. So yes, so now what we need to do, now you can see over here that this child class is inherited from this parent class. This means that this class, this child class over here, also have a function now named as parent method, but this parent method does not have this class name, this method named child method, because the child know the properties of its parents, but the parent does not know the properties of its child, nor does it know that how many child it has, but a child know that it has this as a parent, and this has his parent contain this function named parent method, and this parent method can be accessed using the object of this class named child class. So let me just demonstrate how we can now call these classes. So we will define an object name, let's say P for parent, and we are going to have equals to parent, and we are going to have an object for child class that's going to be C. So these are the two objects for parent and child classes. Now if I type in p dot parent method and type in c dot child method, alright, and now I just run it. We've got errors here. Alright, we have this dot extra over here. Alright, good enough. Let me run it now. And it ran perfectly. And the first thing that was printed was calling parent method, because we had called parent method first, and this parent method was called, and this calling print method was printed out. And then we have called the child method, and calling child method was printed. Now to the concept of inheritance. Inheritance helps us to call the methods that are included in this parent class using the object of this child class, because this child class has inherited all the properties from this parent class, and now can call, for example, if I type in c dot parent method, and it's going to run perfectly. I just run it. It says calling parent method. This means that this object C, that is the object of the child class, has called a method of the parent class, because this child class contained this method that was from the parent class, because it has inherited that class. Now if I type in p.child method and just run it, we are going to have errors in line number 23. This is because, as I told you earlier, that this parent does not know this parent does not know that its child exists. So it does not know that it have a method named child method, because it does not know its properties. But this child method knows its properties. Hence, when we use this over here, c.parent method, it executed perfectly. But when I use p.child method, it doesn't work. So hope that you are now clear with the concept of inheritance, that what is inheritance and how can we use the object of a child class to call a method that is present in the parent class, and how a child class inherit the properties and methods of a parent class. So you can also do one thing more: method overriding. Method overriding can also be done if you want certain methods to change while certain to not. So let me now give you an example. For example, we have one more method over here, that is, let's say, def parent method next. This is the next parent method, and in here we are going to simply print out next method. Alright, so now you know that this child class has inherited all the properties. So this child class now has two methods extra, the parent method next and the parent method. So now if I call out c dot parent method next and just run it. First we need to remove this thing from here, not this thing. When I run line 23, I think I've misspelled it. Alright, let me just copy this and paste it over here, because I have misspelled the spelling of parent method. Alright, good enough. So let me just run it now, and it says next method. So now this child class has two extra methods, the parent method and the parent method next. So now what if I want to change something from this method but not this method, and I have inherited this class and this class contain both these methods. Now if I want some changing in this method but not in this method, because they are itself copied in this child class, so I will just create this method in the child class. What I want to say is, let me show you. If I type in parent MEHDOD, I've misspelled it, and type in print parent method changed success. Alright, so now if I just run it, it's going to say parent method changed success, because now it has called this method, not this method over here. So you have understood this concept, I hope. What I want to say is that when two methods are copied in here in the child class, for example, hundreds of methods are copied in this child class, and you have inherited that child class, but you want only one method to change its property and one method to change its functionality, then you can create that function in the child class and do whatever you want to do with that function. So that's it with inheritance. In the next tutorial, we are going to start with the types of the inheritance. So thank you so much guys for watching, and I'll see you in the next tutorial on inheritance in Python. In this tutorial, we are going to be covering hierarchical inheritance. The first thing you need to know is that what is a hierarchy? Hierarchy is actually like a tree. It has a parent node and then children or leaves that are attached with the branches of the tree. So hierarchical inheritance is when more than one class inherited from a same class. So let me show you this with the help of an example. So I will move on to PyCharm, and in PyCharm I'm going to initialize a class parent, and that parent class is going to have a function that is going to be the initializer function. And that initializer function is going to simply print out a, and then we are going to have another method named as parent method, and that parent method is going to print out parent method, and then we are going to have another class named child, and that child class is going to also have an initializer constructor function, and that's going to print out I, and then we are going to have a method named child method, and that child method is going to simply print out child method. And now we need to derive it as well, so I will just put in brackets here and put on this parent over here. So now I will define another class named more childs. This more child is also going to be derived from parent, which makes it hierarchical inheritance, and this is going to contain two functions. The first one is going to be the initializer constructor function that is going to print out hello. Since that's the only left one, it's going to have these columns as well. This does not need columns. And one more, let's make a child's method, an additional s to distinguish it from the above method, and it's going to print out more child method. So good enough. So now I'm going to create objects, but before creating objects, I'm going to show you that how this is hierarchical inheritance. You can see that this is a parent class, so we will have a node right over here, and this parent class is then derived into two classes over here and over here, and these are at the same level. The first one is the child class that is inherited from the parent class, and it has all the functionality that the parent class has, and then we have class named more child that is also inherited from this parent class, and it has the entire functionality of this parent class. So now let me define objects for these all classes. So the first one is going to be P, that stands for parent. The second one is going to be C, that's going to stand for child. And the third one is going to be M, that stands for more child. Good enough. It's going to be more childs. So now we are going to call functions for them. So the first one is going to be p dot parent method. The second one is going to be c dot child method, and the last one is going to be m dot child's method. So I hope I've spelled them correct. First one is child, MEHDOD, right, and the second one is MEHDOD. I don't know why I misspelled it always. So they are now corrected. I'll just run it, and I have an error in line 15. What was line 15? Yes, we have a column missing over here. So let's just run it again, and it says parent method, child method, and more child method. So now let me show you an example how both these classes have the entire methods that are in the parent method. So if I call this parent method using the child object, as well as I just copy this statement, paste it over here, and call it using the more child class, since both these classes are inherited from this parent class, and I've called a method of the parent class using the objects of these child classes. So if I just run it now, it says parent method, because both these classes have the functionality of the parent method, and it has the methods that are present in the parent method. So hope you're clear about this concept, that what is hierarchical inheritance. So that's it with me. Thank you so much guys for watching, and I'll see you. Welcome to another tutorial on inheritance. In this tutorial we will be covering multi-level inheritance. So what is multi-level inheritance? If a class is derived from a derived class, then this is called multi-level inheritance. In simple words, if you inherit a class that is already a child class for some other parent class, then this concept in programming is called multi-level inheritance. This is such a simple concept. It is almost the same as multiple inheritance, with the basic difference that in multiple inheritance, two classes are derived from a single class, and in multi-level inheritance, the class is derived into two levels. So enough of talking, let me show you an example to clear your concepts. So I will just move on to PyCharm, and in here I'm going to initialize a class named parent, and this parent class is going to have an initializer function that is also known as the constructor function for that class, and that constructor function is going to simply print out I am parent constructor. Alright, so the next thing we need to do is that also we need to have a method over here. So we are going to have a method named parent method, and this parent method is going to print out I am parent method. Alright, good enough with this class. So the second class we need to identify is going to be the child class that is going to be inherited from the parent class, and this is going to have also two methods. The first is going to be the constructor, and the constructor is going to just print out I am the child constructor, and the next method in this is going to be child method, and this child method is simply going to print out I am the child method. So the next class is going to be next child, and this is going to be inherited from the child class, and it is going to have a constructor initializer that is going to print out child constructor. Uh-oh. I'm the child's child constructor. Don't bother the spellings. And it's also going to have a method name next child, and this next child is going to print out I am the child of child method. Don't know what I'm talking about. Don't know what I'm typing, but it is so. So let me now just create objects for all of these classes. But before creating the objects, let me show you how this is multi-level inheritance. You can see that we have a parent class right over here, a child class, a class named child inherit this parent class, and then we have a class named next child that inherit this child class that is already inherited from this parent class. So this is a multi-level inheritance. So now let me just create objects for these. The first one is going to be P, that is going to be equal to parent. The second one is going to be C, that is going to be equal to child. And the third one is going to be N, that is going to be equal to next child. Good enough. So now we are going to call out P dot parent method, C dot child method, and N dot next child. So when I will run this, alright, we have an error in line number 26. I think we have some errors with the spellings. This parent method, alright, we got it. It's parent method. So let me just run it now. So it says I am parent method, it says I am child method, and it says I am the child or child method. So now one more important thing I must say. Now that we know that this is a child class that is inherited from this parent class, and this child class contains this method named parent method. But in multi-level inheritance, this class that is the last child in the hierarchical tree, this next child class not only can contain this child method from which it is extended, but it also contains this parent method, because this parent method has given its method to this child class, because this child class has inherited this parent method and it has the parent method. So when this next child class inherits this child class, it not only inherits this child method but also this parent method. Let me call this using the object of the next child. So I will just replace it here. I'm going to call out n.parent method, and I'm going to call out n.child method. So if I just run it now, I have the same output using the object of the next child, because this next child contains this child method as well as this parent method. And why I've explained it to you, because this parent method is present in this child method, because this child class has inherited this parent class, and now this child class has both the methods, and this next child has inherited this child class, so it will have both the methods, the parent method and the child method as well. So when I initialize its object as n over here and call the parent method as well as the child method using this object n, I get the same output, because I have accessed the parent method as well as the child method as well as the next child method. So this is multi-level inheritance in Python. So I hope you have cleared your concepts about these. An important note: you need to very well understand the difference between the types of inheritance we are covering up till now, rather it be multiple inheritance, multi-level inheritance, or the types of inheritance we will cover in the future. You need to get a good grip on these, else you will not be able to implement them usefully. So go through the slides, go through the videos again and again until you are sure that yes, I got it. So that's all with me. Thank you so much guys for watching, and I'll see you in the next tutorial.